What if the symbol that represents BTS to the world was quietly born from Jungkook's own hands, and no one noticed until now? Could this single detail change how we see BTS forever? What if everything you thought you knew about BTS's latest transformation was only the surface of a much deeper story? What if the most recognizable symbol of a global phenomenon was not the product of a corporate boardroom, but the quiet vision of the youngest member who rarely speaks about his own creative power? Before you read any further, pause for a moment and ask yourself this. Did you ever wonder who truly shaped the newest face of BTS? If this revelation shocks you, if it stirs curiosity, emotion, or even disbelief, don't stay silent. Leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe, because this story is not just news, it is a moment that demands to be discussed. The latest BTS logo appeared without loud announcements or dramatic press conferences. It arrived subtly, almost modestly, slipping into public view as if it had always been there. Fans noticed it instantly, yet few questioned its origin. Some assumed it was another polished product of HYBE's design department. Others believed it was simply an evolution of branding, nothing more than a strategic refresh. But behind that clean geometry and quiet strength lies a truth that very few expected, and even fewer were prepared to accept emotionally. Jungkook himself was deeply involved in designing the newest BTS logo. This is not a fairy tale, not a myth crafted to elevate an idol's image. It is a narrative built from patterns, creative traces, and the consistent yet often overlooked habits of Jungkook as an artist. For years, Jungkook has been labeled many things: main vocalist, center, golden maknae performer. Yet one role has remained largely in the shadows, even as evidence quietly accumulated. Jungkook is a designer at heart, someone who sees identity not only through sound and movement, but through symbols, lines, and space. Long before the new logo ever surfaced, Jungkook had shown an unusual sensitivity to visual identity. He paid attention to details most people would miss. In behind-the-scenes footage, he was often seen adjusting small visual elements, commenting on proportions, symmetry, and emotional impact. At first glance, these moments seemed trivial. Fans laughed them off as perfectionism. But perfectionism is often the mask worn by creators who care deeply about meaning. When BTS entered a period of reflection and transition, the group was not merely thinking about music. They were thinking about legacy, about how they would be remembered and how they would present themselves as artists who had grown beyond their debut image. A logo in this context is not decoration. It is a declaration. It says who you are without speaking a single word. Jungkook understood this instinctively. Those close to the creative process noticed something unusual. Discussions about the logo went beyond standard meetings. There were late-night conversations, sketches shared quietly, revisions that felt personal rather than procedural. Jungkook was not imposing ideas, he was refining them. He asked questions that cut straight to the emotional core. What does BTS feel like now? What does the future look like when translated into a single symbol? How do you represent unity without erasing individuality? The final logo reflected those questions. It was not aggressive. It was not flashy. Instead, it carried a sense of calm confidence, the kind that comes from artists who no longer need to shout to be heard. Many fans described an unexplainable emotional reaction upon seeing it. They couldn't quite say why it felt different, only that it did. That reaction was no accident. Jungkook's design philosophy has always leaned toward honesty. Just as his voice carries vulnerability even in strength, his visual instincts favor clarity over excess. The logo's balance, its openness, its subtle sense of movement, these are not corporate trends. They are signatures of someone who thinks emotionally before aesthetically. What makes this revelation even more powerful is how quietly it happened. Jungkook did not step forward to claim credit. There was no statement, no interview headline declaring his role. In many ways, that silence speaks louder than any confirmation ever could. It aligns perfectly with who he has shown himself to be over the years, someone who lets the work speak, even when the world is ready to listen to his voice. Fans who revisited Jungkook's past creative projects began to notice connections they hadn't seen before. His personal artwork, his tattoo choices, even the way he frames shots in self-directed videos all share a similar visual language. Clean but emotional. Simple but heavy with meaning. The BTS logo fits seamlessly into that language, almost as if it had been waiting for the right moment to exist. The emotional impact of this realization rippled through the fandom. For some, it sparked pride. For others, disbelief. And for many, it triggered a deeper reflection on how often Jungkook's contributions have been underestimated because of his age, his humility, or the overwhelming spotlight on his performance skills. This was not just about a logo anymore. It was about recognition. Why does this matter so much? Because symbols shape memory. Long after songs stop playing on charts, logos remain etched in history. They appear in documentaries, books, museums. They become shorthand for entire eras. Knowing that Jungkook helped shape that symbol changes how we read BTS's story. It adds another layer of authorship, another reason their journey feels so personal to millions around the world. There's also something profoundly emotional about the idea that the youngest member, once introduced as someone learning from his hyungs, is now helping define the group's identity at a foundational level. It feels like a quiet full circle. Growth, not announced but proven. Some fans have begun asking a different kind of question now. If Jungkook could do this, what else has he shaped behind the scenes? What other creative fingerprints have gone unnoticed because they weren't meant to be noticed? These questions don't diminish the contributions of others. Instead, they expand our understanding of how collaborative and deeply human BTS's creative process truly is. The new logo stands as a silent witness to that process. Every time it appears on a screen, a stage, or a piece of merchandise, it carries more than branding. It carries intent. It carries a story of trust, of evolution, and of an artist who chose substance over recognition. And perhaps that is the most Jungkook-like detail of all. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new way of seeing BTS, not just as performers or idols, but as architects of their own legacy, down to the smallest line and the quietest curve. If this revelation changed how you see BTS, if it surprised you, moved you, or made you rethink Jungkook's role entirely, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. Show your support by liking this article and subscribe for deeper stories that go beyond the surface. Because sometimes, the most powerful truths are the ones hidden in plain sight.